Hi, this is Steve Platek for Evolution, This View of Life, the magazine that tries to approach everything and anything from an evolutionary perspective. Today I'm talking with Rose Sokol Chang, president of the Northeastern Evolutionary Psychology Society, otherwise known as NEEPS, and professor of psychology at SUNY New Paltz. Hi, Rose. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve.
All right. Rose, tell us how you became interested in studying psychology or behavior from an evolutionary perspective.
I was an undergraduate, and I knew I wanted to major in psychology, but I wasn't sure what area I wanted to go into. And I took a class called evolutionary psychology, not knowing what I was getting myself into, and I fell in love with it right away.
Oh, wow. And who taught that class? Do you remember?
Yeah, Dr. Garrison at Kentucky State University.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
And then he actually was so excited that I was into the topic area that he hooked me up with some research at University of Kentucky in prejudice, and I kind of used my evolutionary lens for that. And then also he let me do my senior seminar project on evolution and homicide.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it's before David Buss's book, so fun to take a look at that.
Excellent. So how about you tell us what you're doing these days in terms of research and teaching in evolutionary psychology?
I look at attachment vocalizations from an evolutionary perspective. And attachment vocalizations are any vocalizations you use with an attachment partner. So I mostly look at children's whining,
Okay.
but also a little bit on the fringes with motherese or baby talk, and then romantic baby talk. So people use it with their spouses as well as with their kids, which is really interesting.
So can you elaborate on that? When you talk about attachment vocalizations, are you saying that so my son Spencer, who's just turned 1, had contracted a throat virus and an ear infection simultaneously, and was quite whiny. Is that a form of this attachment vocalization?
Yeah, so that's more related to actual pain and distress, right?
Okay.
But that would be part of it. But so we started looking at whining because everyone kind of says, oh, kids learn to whine and you reinforce it. That's the end of the story, right?
Okay.
Well, why are whines so effective? Why don't they whimper? Why don't they cry? Why don't kids just talk really loudly? What is it about whine specifically? So we started looking at the acoustic properties of it, and whines share with motherese that high pitch, kind of the varied pitch contours, and they're slower than other forms of speech. They're more drawn out.
Wow.
So it actually is really similar to motherese, but it sounds a lot more grating to us. So it's kind of the same thing. Why do you get out of the way when you hear an emergency vehicle go by?
Yeah.
Beepo, beepo, beepo. What is it about that sound, right? There's something about that sound that gets us going. Same thing with whines.
So do you think we have some kind of proximate neural mechanism that is, just like our whine detector, or our mother, that high-pitched, slow frequency or slow rate sound that just, whatever we're doing,
Yep.
just stop.
That is exactly what we're proposing, that we have the sensitivity towards sounds that exploit that, basically. So infant cries, the same thing, motherese, whines, they're all just exploiting it.
Okay.
So we have that sensitivity.
And you said something about romantic vocalizations as well. And obviously my wife doesn't do this, but I've heard that romantic partners sometimes whine.
Why is this obvious that your wife doesn't do it?
Because I don't want to call her a whiner, right?
Okay.
But your romantic partner can sometimes engage in what people would consider whining, right? We see it on the reality TV programs all the time and that sort of thing. And it kind of, what's interesting about it is that those shows that are most whiny seem to be the most popular. And I think of the one that my students watch the most, and I have not, thank goodness, taken the time to watch it, Jersey Shore. And every time I hear them talk about it in class, when I'm talking about evolutionary psychology, they relate it to that program. And they talk about how so-and-so is whining and crying and this, that, the other thing. Is it that same mechanism that we're exploiting?
I would guess. We
Okay.
haven't done research on that, but I mean, the thing about whining with kids is you only whine at people you love.
Okay.
And, I mean, Spencer will do this when he starts whining more in a little bit, right? Like, they don't just walk up to the person at the grocery store and start whining.
Right.
They do it to their parents. They do it to a caregiver. They do it to the person at daycare, whatever. So on Jersey Shore, I would predict if they're whining, it's probably somebody they feel comfortable and close to.
Okay.
Same kind of way.
And then, so in infants, is there some kind of identity interaction then, is what you're saying, based upon the whine? So if your offspring whine, I'm less likely to respond, or I mean, because you mentioned the alarm from the fire truck, and that's pretty much a universal. We all will hopefully we all respond to that. But maybe if your baby, no longer a baby, I guess, but your offspring whines, I may not respond, and if mine does, you may not respond. Is that accurate?
Oh, so I should be less responsive to Spencer, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's still, I mean, the thing that's interesting about attachment vocalizations in humans compared to a lot of other mammal species is that we all respond to it.
Okay.
So a lot of mammal species, it's just the mother who responds to a distress vocalization, or in some birds where there's parental or paternal care, then you might hear fathers responding to it.
Okay.
But in humans, everyone does. And everyone produces it, right? I'm sure that people walk up to Spencer in the grocery store and start saying, "What a cute little baby!"
Yeah,
you know?
sometimes they do. Yeah.
So we do it to kids we don't even know.
Okay.
Whining is, I think, more towards people that kids know because they have that concern about safety.
Okay.
Adults are more outgoing and to strangers, right, than kids are.
And you think everyone responds to it? There's no sex difference? You don't think women respond more than men?
I wouldn't say there's no sex difference.
Oh, okay, okay.
Even in humans, mothers still are going to respond more and to produce it more. But I think that if you looked into it, there'd be individual differences in it, but there'd still be a responsiveness. So the same way men respond to infant cries, but their physiological responses are different than a woman's.
Okay, and that makes a lot of intuitive sense, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the difference in how you interact with babies, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, let me change gears. Let me ask you to tell us a little bit about your role in NEEPS as president, and maybe just tell us a little bit about what NEEPS is for the people who might not be familiar with what NEEPS is. Mm-hmm.
NEEPS is the Northeastern Evolutionary Psychology Society. It's the first regional evolutionary psychology society in the country, but we get people from all around the country. I mean, you come and you're from Georgia.
Right.
We get people from other countries. So it's really kind of picked up a lot of momentum. Glenn Gare at SUNY New Paltz started NEEPS in 2007, and since then it's just really picked up. It's kind of a place where we want to kind of push the boundaries of traditional academic conferences, where we want there to be kind of a comfort and familiarity so that it doesn't matter if you're a faculty, if you're a student, man, woman, big name, little name, anything. Everyone gets together. We're all kind of on equal footing. We're just asking interesting questions, forming collaborations.
Yeah.
Thing related to evolution.
And I can second that, because bringing my students there, they've been greeted with open arms, and we're from Georgia, so. Tell me then about the spin-off society that I think that you were quite integral in developing, called the FEPS, or Feminist Evolutionary Psychology Society. Is that
right.
Correct? Okay. How did you guys or you women come up with that idea, and what's the status of that? Where's that going? Where do you see the future of that society?
Yep. At NEEPS, one breakfast, gosh, I was Oswego, so 2009, we were sitting around Marianne Fisher, Sarah Strout, myself, and my mom and my son Enzo, my mom Chris and my son Enzo, who often go to NEEPS with me. We're all sitting around at breakfast thinking, there's all this great work in evolutionary psych, but a lot of it's really kind of ignored the female perspective. So they look at it, I mean, honestly, to make an illusion, it's kind of like the Bible, right? There's Adam, and then let's take the rib off. And that's kind of been the story in evolutionary psych, too. There's this active man who's responsible for human evolution, and then there's this woman in the back with the baby, right? She's not doing much over there.
Right.
So we wanted to look at what is the woman doing? How has she been integral to human evolution as well? And the status now is just, it's really picked up interest. There's a lot of people who are interested in it. We have a spin-off book project that's not really affiliated with FEPS, but kind of we started it. It's called Evolution's Empress, which will be published by Oxford University. Just looking at the active role of women. So
Okay, awesome. Can you give us an example of some of the research that is showing the active role in women in evolution or in selection?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's actually a lot more in the lesson.
Or maybe let me rephrase the question. Can you show us an example from this evolution Empress sort of perspective that might have otherwise been ignored in what I might call traditional EP?
Female competition for mates.
Okay, can you
That's kind of
elaborate?
this one.
How do females compete for mates?
So that's really Mary Ann's line, and she's done a lot of research on that. But the traditional point of view, right, is that men compete for mating access to women, and women are kind of passive in that. But then if you look into the research that has been done, which isn't very much, you see that women are competing, but just not in physical ways that you might expect from men. So they're calling other women names behind their back or spreading rumors so that they won't be as attractive. They're making themselves look most appealing to men.
Okay.
There is actually competition going on.
That's excellent. Yeah, and evolutionary psychology has pretty much ignored that up until recently.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I say last 20 years, like Sarah Hrdy, pick up any book by Sarah Hrdy and you've got it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, Patty Gowady, there's a lot of people who have been doing this. Linda Fettigan, Ann Campbell. So.
Excellent. Excellent.
We wanted to nail that.
Are you currently teaching?
I do teach, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
what are you
teaching online, raising my little guy, but I teach evolutionary psych at SUNY New Paltz in the summers.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And I teach social and personality at Southern New Hampshire University.
Oh, wow. So you're all over the place. Tell me a little bit about how your students handle evolutionary psychology. What are some of the most interesting reactions you've gotten in that class?
I always find evolutionary psych is kind of a self-selected sample.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't usually find, like, I know people expect there to be these big battles between religion and evolution. I have had religious students, and they don't usually have a problem with it, but that's because they're already open to the idea of evolution.
Okay.
Because they're taking that course, right?
So that's
I don't know
interesting.
if your experience has been the same, but
No, of course not. I'm in Georgia, so my experience has been quite the opposite. But I'm trying to get a handle on what people's experiences are when they teach that. So so that's awesome.
thing I find that they bring all these misconceptions. They've just been poorly trained.
Okay.
Evolution's not given the emphasis it should be in public schools, I don't think.
No, I agree more. Do you get the same misconception like evolution is making organisms better?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's always one, yep.
Yeah, that's one of the largest that we get down here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Rose, thanks a lot for taking a few minutes to talk to us.
Yeah.
This will be up on the magazine maybe in a couple of weeks, and I really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
All right, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Bye now.
Take care.